Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Perspectives Pod. I'm Malcolm, and I'm joined here with my two wonderful kids, of course, Joseph and Simone, in that birth order, Joseph and Simone. And it's always great to have these guys with me here. I think it's something that I certainly enjoy. I hope they do too. But anyway, got a lot of things that we want to discuss. There's quite a bit of things that's been happening. Of course, we didn't record last weekend. Sometime life happens, work happens, and so we weren't able to record anything last weekend. But here we are today, recording episode 3, and yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right in and get started. Simone, talk to us. What do you have on on your list?
Well, the Grammys happened last weekend. If
Right.
you watched, a lot of awards were given out. Some deserved, some not so much, in my opinion, and I think a lot of the people's opinions. The big one of the night was, well, the big winner of the night was Kendrick Lamar with his song and album, The Not Like Us, which was a diss track to Drake and their drama. He ended up winning like 5 or more Grammys that night. He
Now,
did a really good job.
I got to admit, I didn't watch the Grammys. I haven't watched the Grammys in years.
Hmm.
I don't watch the Oscars.
People
Um,
are watching less and less, I think.
well, it's interesting because, well, first off, I don't like today's pop music. I just it's too much corporate, computer generated stuff. I'm still listening to classic rock from the 70s, 80s, 90s. That's pretty much what I listen to. I have bought some recent stuff, but yeah, I just don't watch it.
Well, I think nowadays people are also just kind of realizing that it seems very rigged. Like, for example, this year, Beyonce won Country Album of the Year,
Hmm.
Grammy for Country Album of the Year. She didn't win a single thing at the CMAs. And
Right.
who else was in this category was Lainey Wilson, great album this year. Casey Musgraves, Chris Stapleton. They were all nominees. And who else but Beyonce to win this award where she's not a country artist. This was her first year doing country music. And I think I, like a lot of other people, at least on social media, are like, we know 3 songs from this album.
Yeah.
That was it. So that was just not deserved. She also won Album of the Year, so Country Album of the Year, and then Album of the Year over Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan. Like, this was a very good year for music. We had a lot of new artists come out, like Chapel Roan. She did win New Artist of the Year. This guy Shabuzi,
Hmm.
Sabrina Carpenter. So
Hmm.
it was definitely tough, but I don't think that Beyonce should have won either of those awards, and I think a lot of
Yeah,
people agree.
I mean, from my perspective, I don't really watch the Grammys either, but I'm a little more open to modern music, especially pop music. I think a lot of people, by default, including those who rig the Grammys, they like the idea of an artist branching out, and I'm all for it. Like Lil Nas X when he did Old Town Road, I thought that was a genuinely good country song,
Yeah.
but it was a good one. It was popular because it was well made,
Mm-hmm.
and not to say that Beyonce stuff isn't. It's just it feels like a good start for getting into country. It does not feel like she instantly got the same level of accomplishment in
No.
that genre that she has in her home genre.
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are also saying this was the only award she hasn't won in the Grammys. Like, she's never won Album of the Year. She's obviously never won Country Album of the Year either. So a lot of people are like kind of comparing it to how what is his name? Leonardo DiCaprio. He
Hmm.
didn't win. Well, what is it that you win in movies? I mean,
The
no.
best actor award, or
Yeah, for, is that Golden Globes or whatever that is? Like, people,
uh,
Oscar. He hadn't won an
yeah,
Oscar. He didn't win
yeah,
it for Titanic. He didn't win it for What's Eating Gilbert, whatever that movie was. Like,
yeah,
all
really
these
great.
great movies that he's done. He had never won an Oscar. And then what he wins his Oscar for was like something that was like, okay, that
Didn't he
wasn't
win
his
the Oscar
best.
for The Revenant?
Was it that? It was like, it wasn't even that like amazing of a movie, like not his best. And it was just like, oh, he had to win it at some point, so let's just give it
Uh,
to him now, kind of thing.
a
That's what
lot
people
of
are
these,
saying.
I have to agree. I mean, I think a lot of these. award shows are probably rigged. You know, it's political in not in the Washington politics sense, but political in that there's a lot of backroom maneuvering and deal making so that so and so can win the award because he or she didn't win it last time and it's their time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of crap, and I just don't pay attention to it. Quite
It's
honestly.
pretty much, I think, this end result of any award show, because you can see the same in awards for new artists. I forget the name of that award show, but the video game awards had the same thing. They lasted like 3 years before they started being overtaken, because if you can say award winning for your movie, game, song, you get more attention, more money. And you're just bound to have whatever are effectively lobbyists trying to muscle their way in and push people
Yeah,
to vote one way or another.
yeah. It's kind of like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bull. It's bull. I mean, there are artists who really don't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their music isn't really rock and roll. There are artists who aren't in who should have been inducted years ago. So yeah, it's whatever. That's why I don't pay attention to it anymore. When I was a kid, when I was much younger, when I was your age, I would pay attention. I would watch the Grammys. Me and Mama, my mom, your grandmother. We would sit and watch the Oscars. Because back then there were still these older actors, Jimmy Stewart, Paul Newman, actors of a different era that were still appearing on the show, and yeah, but
If they were still rigging them back then, they were a lot more subtle about it too.
exactly, right, right. But anyway, so yeah, but okay, so the awards that it's unfortunate as far as Beyonce. I mean, it does raise an interesting issue why she won Country Music Album of the Year when she didn't win anything at the CMA Awards. I'm sure there are a lot of disgruntled country music fans who are like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. She is talented. Listen, the girl, she is very talented.
Oh, of course, but it'd be like if I don't know, um, 50 Cent tried to get into a cappella. He might be good at it, but he's not really trained in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Well,
I
I
don't know. I
think
just think
Beyonce
her.
is.
I think her time has passed. I feel like she's just been big for so long, and I
Hmm,
don't know. She has too many people in the background, just like I think keeping her relevant,
wow.
and she's just.
Well, that's quite possible, and it makes me think of Madonna. Man, Madonna was big since the early '80s. I remember when her first album came out. I mean, and she was in her 20s. Now she's in her 60s, mid to late 60s. Unfrickin' believable. She's still trying to be relevant, but she really isn't anymore. You know,
Yeah, but she is one of the greats. They say, like Madonna,
she was
Michael
I mean,
definitely.
I
Jackson.
love some of her more inventive stuff, like the album she came out with based on like Sanskrit lyrics. It was really interesting stuff, but that also came out, I think, in the late '80s.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what else is interesting? So like Kendrick Lamar, obviously like this was like a big year for him with the Grammys. He had that whole beef with Drake like this past summer was like when it was all going down, and
yeah.
he is the halftime performer for the Super Bowl. So it's a good year for him. Like this,
I
everything's
mean,
going.
he's
Yeah,
Kendrick Lamar is interesting to me. I like rap. I like hip hop. I just like the stuff where there's some thought behind it, and his fits in that area. It's just he knows how to straddle the line between commercially viable and actually still writing and singing what he wants to do.
yeah.
Like I guess you'd say he's real, for lack of a better description.
Hmm.
But the whole Drake thing, it's as far as I can tell, they had a normal diss, and then Drake went for Kendrick Lamar's wife, girlfriend, I don't remember at the time, and Kendrick Lamar took that personally.
Oh yeah,
And
very.
he's just, ever since then, he's been making diss after diss, and not like us. He made in 3 days really simple song in terms of composition. The music video is just fans of his bouncing around while he's singing, and I mean that the level of focused hate in that song towards Drake was
Really.
almost legendary. The album cover is Drake's house with the symbol
Yeah.
over the house that represents sex offenders since they're at the time, and this still are a lot of rumors about Drake being very much into teenagers as he should not be, and grooming them. Very, very like Weinstein-esque stuff, if you think. And
Weinstein asked, what are the other performers? Well, there's P. Diddy, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever he calls himself now. He's
P
one.
Diddy, Jay-Z's kind of suspected. I don't know if there's anything confirmed though, but
Yeah,
Kendrick Lamar was not subtle either. I mean, one of his most prominent lines in the song is "certified lover boy," which is something Drake calls himself. He just says "certified pedophile,"
Mm-hmm.
and
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
no, he is to the cutthroat. And
Mm-hmm.
in the Grammys, they actually sung that line, the whole crowd,
They
as he was.
did
Yeah,
in
and he won.
unison.
good. You
He
know,
won at least 5 Grammys in
yeah,
that one night, which is more than Drake won in his entire career.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest sin of this whole feud is that Drake actually filed a lawsuit for defamation against Kendrick Lamar, which, if you're in a rap beef, is like crying and taking your ball home.
Well, yeah, but I have to say, if somebody's publicly accusing you of being a pedophile,
It's only an accusation.
I would think you would have a right to sue them.
He
Um,
certainly can sue them. It's just that, does he really want to draw more attention? Because it's the kind of thing he has not been proved guilty in a court of law, nothing like that. But there seems to be a similar weight to these accusations as there were in the early Cosby accusations. It's not. It's there's enough media corroboration where the more attention he draws to himself, the more likely people are going to keep digging. And if there is something there, he's just setting himself up for failure. So if he's acting this way, it's either he's genuinely innocent and just isn't doing the right thing, or he's guilty and short sighted. But
right,
in just the sheer humiliation aspect, I mean, yes, Kendrick Lamar is also going to perform at the Super Bowl where they're going to continue pulling this song off. And the song, even though it's a diss track, it's become kind of this anthem for those who have been feeling like they're put down or they're treated differently. Because the lyrics, not like us, is a very common refrain towards the poor from the rich or minorities for the majority in this country. It's a song that's definitely going to stick around for a while.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Yeah,
to
my
check it
kids
out.
that I nanny love that song, but it's very inappropriate. Like there's curse words left and right, but like the kids in school are singing it, like 9-year-olds, like they're obsessed with this song.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Huh,
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, I guess I have to.
Dad, you have to listen to it.
I guess I do.
Yeah,
I got to get with it, man.
yeah.
Don't be such an old fogey. You know?
Uh, Kendrick's definitely, I think, the exception for popular rap. I'm more of a fan of Mr. Lif or Aesop Rock or older stuff like Public Enemy, but he's got good stuff because it doesn't feel corporate, as you said, Dad.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's very explicit, though.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, but that's part of rap. I mean, I can remember going way back. What were Two Live Crew?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You remember Two Live Crew? You want to talk explicit? That was really explicit. They were a rock band from Florida, uh, and yeah, they came out with some really explicit stuff. They were sort of trendsetters when it came to that. But
They definitely set the bar pretty high. I think one of their most famous songs was "Face Down, Ass Up," and
yeah,
that's the
hello.
most explicit lyric in the song, by the way.
See, that's what I don't like about rap. I like Public Enemy. Man, I thought they were awesome. Public Enemy, NWA, about they rapped about social issues and social injustice, and it had substance. But when you're going to start this misogynistic shit about just down, speaking down toward women, disrespecting women, and disrespecting each other. I don't like the N word. I can't stand the N word. It's offensive. And when they start saying that to each other, I don't think that's right. Don't do that.
No,
I mean,
I
that's
agree.
what Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement was partially about. Eliminating the disrespect that people showed the African American community, and to me, that's continuing that disrespect, even though it might be among themselves. It's just to me that's just ignorant.
I mean, there's so many layers of it's a culture trying to pull itself out of ingrained habits, and you're right about the misogyny. In fact, there is a documentary that I believe is on PBS called "How Hip Hop Changed the World," or like it's called "Fight the Power." Chuck
Yeah,
D's, of course, in it as one of the guests, but they also have what's her name? She's a very prominent Queen Latifah. They have her interviewed as well, and several others. And yeah, female rappers have just been passed over so many times. And I'm
right.
not talking about your average ones. I'm talking about ones that probably are some of the best performers you'd see of their era.
Yeah,
But they're a woman, so they barely get any attention.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's a whole section of it that was enlightening to see.
it's the same thing in rock, especially hard rock. You very seldom see, uh, uh, you know, female bands succeed in rock. I mean, you've had the Runaways, which really became more popular as time has gone by after they disbanded. There was a movie, in fact, about the band, the Runaways, and they were a female rock band from I want to say the '70s, late '70s, early '80s, if I'm not mistaken. I remember them. Joan Jett came out of the Runaways. Lita Ford came out of the Runaways. So they were a really serious, kick-ass rock band, but they didn't get the respect they deserved. There was another band, Mother's Finest. Mother's Finest lead singer is a woman. They're an African American hard rock band, and they rock. They are really good. I have one of their CDs. I can't remember the name of it, but it's very good. She has a terrific voice, very talented musicians. You know, so anyway, yeah, it is what it is, but it's changing slowly but surely.
It's
Yeah,
changing, and the underground scene's still good. I mean, that's where you go to find good music.
yeah,
The artists that don't get attention, they put their SoundCloud albums out and Bandcamp albums. You'll
yeah.
find great stuff. It's just you have to dig a little bit. Word of mouth is the best. Word of mouth is really the new Grammys, as far as I'm concerned.
That's very true. And now, especially with social media makes word of mouth much more. Um, I don't know, much more successful. It helps bring the attention in a way that really corporate media wasn't able to do. I mean, TikTok and other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, of course, so many others that I could mention. But yeah, I mean, Simone, what are some of the musicians, bands, singers that you're listening to now, for example?
I mean, I've always been a fan of Fleetwood Mac. They're not new, but Rainbow Kin Surprise has been around for a little while. It's a all man band. Um,
Yeah,
Krogbin, or I'm not good at saying this band's name. They were also a new artist this year, and they were actually up for Best New Artist of the Year. Krogbin, something like that. No vocals really, just like three people in this band, two guys, one woman, out of Austin, Texas,
really.
and they're just like cool, like hangout music you put on, very chill.
Uh,
Um,
you
I
got to
listen
send
to
me a
them.
link.
I will. You'd actually really like them. They're very good.
Okay. All right. Very
Yeah.
cool. You still listen to Lana Del Rey?
No, not so much anymore. She was really big when I was more in high school. I mean, some people still really like her, and I mean, I'm really happy for her. She's
Yeah.
recently got married to some gator hunter in
How about that?
Louisiana. Some just small town guy who
From the
would give
Bayou.
like bayou gator tours.
Yeah.
No idea. I guess she met him going on this tour, but
You never know where when love will appear.
I
You
guess
know.
so.
I
Yeah.
mean, he's probably good at his job if he still has all his arms.
Yeah, yeah, and he's still doing his job. Like even though he's married her, like millionaire, super rich. I follow him on Instagram, and he's still doing his alligator tours.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. I hope they're happy. You
Yeah,
know. All right, guys. Any other issues before I get on to mine?
you can share yours.
Yeah,
No.
let's hear it.
Good grief. Like I told you before we started, I have, I read the news, I listen to other podcasts, I stay informed, and I don't know where to begin, you know. And I mean, we could start off. I mean, my first thing regards DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one thing that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, when you apply for a job, You fill out the application, and there's a part of the application that asks you if you're part of a protected class. That's DEI. One of those protected classes is a member of the military, a veteran of the military. And I think lots of folks don't realize that veterans are a protected class under DEI. And if the current administration wants to gut DEI, that's one of the protected classes that will be affected. And so, that's something I don't think they realized when all this began. So that came up. Foreign aid, USAID, soft power. That is, to me, what Elon Musk is doing, and putting USAID through the wood chipper, as he said, is irresponsible and ignorant because he clearly doesn't know what the hell USAID is for. USAID has been, and it was established, if I'm not mistaken, it was established under John F. Kennedy during
Yes.
the Cold War. And it was established to help, not only help those less fortunate around the world, but also to help the United States increase its soft power. You don't just have hard power, military power, bombs and missiles and aircraft, tanks. You have soft power, which is diplomacy, doing good things, good work around the world so that the people we help in those countries look at the United States and say, hey, wow, they're really, we really love the United States. We respect the United States. They've helped us. You know, that's so important. But Musk and Trump don't understand this. And it's because they're ignorant. And I mean that in the literal sense of the word. They are ignorant with regard to what USA does, what it has always done, and how important it is for our diplomatic efforts around the world. Um, could there be some tweaking that might need to be done to USAID? Sure. I don't think there's a single uh, department in our entire U.S. government that couldn't afford to be tweaked and improved a little bit. But this idea, which is another issue, a big problem, this idea that so many people look at the federal government and say they're a bunch of crooks and they're out to rip everybody off. No, no. The federal government, not to say it's the most efficient, our system of government was designed the way it is for a reason. Okay. Number one, the federal government is supposed to protect and provide certain things for its citizens. And a lot of the programs that are in, if not all the programs that are part of the federal government, do certain things to either provide for citizens directly or indirectly, provide for companies, small businesses, corporations, et cetera, et cetera. It's it's um, it's a government that, yes, there are issues that need to be fixed, but by tearing it down, destroying it, which is what Elon Musk and Trump are trying to do right now, to me that is just, it's asinine. It is irresponsible, and it is unfathomable that a president of the United States is taking part in this, is shepherding this effort to destroy the federal government so that he can have it rebuilt the way he thinks it should be. Well, first off, this guy, I'm going to go off here. This guy is a real estate professional from New York. He understands New York real estate, but his experience, his knowledge is very narrow. Okay. He doesn't have a worldly point of view when it comes to everything that he's responsible for in the government. So that makes him very dangerous. And Elon Musk, oh, for Pete's sake, I mean, he said to the what is it, the political party in Germany, AfD.
AFD, yes. The modern Nazi party.
Essentially, it's I forget what the A stands for, but it's something for Deutschland.
Yeah.
I forget what the A means, but anyway, diluting your culture by letting these other cultures come into your country. You're diluting your culture. That's straight out of Adolf Hitler's script.
It
You know,
literally is. I
right?
mean,
Yeah. So, I mean, and then Trump is saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Literally said that. No, no, your mother, Donald, was an immigrant.
yeah. And I
So
should also add poisoning the blood is directly taken from Adolf Hitler's scripts.
yes, yes, indeed. So these things are just very dangerous. That these prominent people who are now running our government are saying shit like this. There wasn't a time very long ago that you would have been. I can remember former governor of Virginia. I can't remember his name, but this was maybe 10 years ago. He ran for president and he referred to a young, I can't remember if the young man might have been Indian American, as in the country India, Indian American, Pakistani American. Anyway, he referred to the young man as a macaca on stage at a campaign event. And a macaca is a monkey. Referring to somebody like that as a macaca is really a derogatory term. They drummed him out. He lost support. That was the end of his campaign. Now, and that was, again, he might have been running against Obama either in, for 2007, 2008, or maybe it was 2011, 2012 when this happened. But it wasn't that long ago. And now look at where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Well,
it's just, you flood the zone with shit. You say a lie enough times, it becomes the truth straight out of Hitler's playbook. So, we have to become much more aware. We've got to become active. I called Congress this past week. I called the House. I called my House of the Representative Mike Lawler, who's a Republican.
yeah,
I called his office and I said, "Look, I am very upset with the way things are going in D.C. right now, with the way the federal government is being dismantled, with Elon Trump's the responsibilities he's been given and his behavior, and certainly Donald Trump. I am not a big supporter of." So I let him know what I thought. And then I called my senator, um, Kirsten. I keep saying Kristen. It's Kirsten Gillibrand,
mhm.
Democrat. And I told her the same thing. I said, I'm deeply concerned and they need to do something. And I'll tell you something. And I don't mean to monopolize this conversation,
Of course.
but I read in the news this morning that there were millions of phone calls being placed to the congressional switchboard because of how upset millions of people are about the direction of the government and what's going on and the dismantling of different parts of our federal government and the problems that dismantling can cause, which people don't seem to appreciate. Well, apparently a lot do because they flooded Congress. Congress normally gets the congressional switchboard. I forget how many they said, but it was.
I've heard from one senator that it was 40 calls. Her office normally receives 40 calls a day, and they go receiving 1,600 a day now.
Imagine that's one office,
Yeah.
one office. So it gives you an idea of how upset people are with what's currently going on. Um, but another thing I wanted to talk about is the political party system, and it makes you wonder if our current political party system is viable, if it will last, what's going to happen to it after Donald Trump has come along and essentially taken over in short order the Republican Party. Um, both parties are failing, quite honestly. I listened to a podcast recently. My gosh, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll get back to you on that. But this guy that was being interviewed, Yuval Levin, he's with the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank. Okay, brilliant guy. Just because someone's a conservative doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to what they have to say, give them, some credit where credit is due. And he was saying that neither party, and I didn't realize this, but neither party has had a durable majority or a durable majority coalition in 30 years. Think about that. It's been since, oh my gosh, probably the 80s since a political party has had a durable majority coalition. I remember the Democrats during the Reagan administration when Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, and the Democrats really, um, controlled Congress. They were really strong, and they dealt a lot. Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan both being of Irish heritage, they would sit down. They may not have been on the same party. They may not have seen a lot of political things the same way, but they would sit down. They'd have a drink. They'd shoot the bull, and they really got along well. They respected each other. Okay, even though they were ideologically opposed, and that's what we need to get back to. But that's part of the reason that you don't have a majority coalition by either party now. Everything's so finely, um, you know, the major the margin. The margin of error is a couple of votes here, a couple of votes there. That's all you can afford to lose, and that's not good. Our system's barely holding up because of that. You can win an election but still not get anything done, which is what's happened to the Republicans. They're not going to get much done. They don't have a controlling majority like at one time they may have had, or the Democrats may have had. And so that's going to affect how legislation is created in DC. That's going to affect whether certain programs that can help citizens, help small businesses, help the backbone of our country, which is the middle class, what can they get done that could help us? I just don't know. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I think that this is just us not having talked for a week. This is just 2 weeks of stuff. As you can tell, a
Yeah,
lot of things are happening, and we're really glossing over so much. But to wrap around to um, USAID, I'd like to just address that myself in a little bit. We're not worried about losing USAID for humanitarian reasons. I mean, yes, we are, but it was started by JFK, as you said, Dad, in the 1960s in direct response to foreign aggression across the world through ideological means, namely the Soviet Union. The
that's
Soviet
correct.
Union's ideology was being spread, and we did not want them to overtake the world through any means, let
Isn't
alone through beliefs.
isn't it ironic? So we established USAID in the early 60s to counter Soviet aggression.
Mhm.
Isn't it ironic that Democrats are being called socialists and communists, and yet we would like to see USAID, survive and thrive
Yes, and
because
continue
so
to
much
ensure pro American principles because
pro
that's what.
exactly democracy. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, this whole I don't want to get too um, angry about this, but it really does just offend the crap out of me.
No, I mean, I think anger is important. Like, you took a very high and eloquent road in discussing it, and I'm probably going to have more obscenities fly out as I talk because USAID is one of the organizations that the bleeding left Che Guevara loving stereotype can support, and that Henry Kissinger can love. They
Yeah,
both love it because you get blankets and medicine and food and healthcare and everything to all of these poor people in these countries, and then they like us and they want
right,
to support us, and they don't want the Russians or the Chinese coming in. We don't have to fire a shot. We don't have to send a single soldier. It's it's like the non-military version of Ukraine. When the Ukraine war happened, we could not send any soldiers. We could just send money. They fight for us. We fight Russia through them. It's a win-win. You should have seen Dick Cheney and AOC square dancing in the hall together because of how much those principles aligned. And yet, both the Ukraine war and USAID, these degenerate troglodytes that are called the modern Republican Party decide no, no. Why? No. And then
right,
you've got this unelected, foreign born South African Elon Musk. And I say it that way because he's acting as president. He is effectively running as the president, except he still has more power than that because Congress is sitting on their ass, not interfering whatsoever. And I'm specifically referring to the majority in Congress who could stop his overreach. Congress controls the money, and they're just letting him rip out the foundation. He's not doing anything that couldn't be reversed through congressional action. But the problem is, he's fired everyone from USAID effectively. They're not going to show up. He's
Yeah.
taken servers out. He's hacked others. He's torn down the office buildings. He's recalled people from across the globe. That's real damage.
Right.
On paper, things are fine, but he doesn't care about the paper. He's going for what's actually happening.
Right. Now,
It's,
recently there was a federal judge, as of yesterday morning, federal
yes,
judge here in New York, who
it was an injunction, right?
say again?
It was an injunction filed against his
Correct.
actions in the Treasury Department.
Correct. He filed a temporary injunction to stop Elon Musk from essentially dismantling the Treasury Department.
Yeah, which
And
is great. It's just now we have to see how it's enforced
well, and
because that's the
that's
fear.
the big issue. That is the big issue. It's one thing to file the injunction, to file the order, but how is that going to be enforced? You
I
know,
mean, at this point, I think it needs to be enforced by having whatever authorities that can be trusted, because that's where we're at, to accompany those who would stop his agents. And may I add, his also unelected agents who 19 to 25 years old. One's a virulent racist, the other one's a black hat hacker brought in. I mean, they're not, I'm not saying they're not intelligent. The 19-year-old, or at least one of the 19-year-olds, he started his own business and he's an excellent coder, but that doesn't teach you how to understand the intricacies of US foreign aid
well, that's right.
or bureaucracy.
That's
He's
right. I mean,
not educated enough.
you can be a virulent racist and still be very intelligent. Look at Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That's one example.
Though
So,
at this point, I would disagree about Elon's intelligence because of all of the drug use that he's been just plunging his head through. I'm not even saying that facetiously. You
uh,
look up the side effects of ketamine, he's got every single one. And one of the most terrifying ones is disassociation, where
right.
you believe that you genuinely are not in reality. Like, he's been doing it for so long, and the way he's acting now, he may genuinely not think he's in the real world anymore. So who cares what happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, Trump's just signing off, just letting
Yeah.
him go.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's so
Deep,
that,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, that the reason why I am really on pins and needles at the moment now is we had this court order come from, we're having more come through, we're having more coming through. The courts are the only line of defense we have left in terms of government stability. The Congress is not acting. The president is out the building practically.
Yeah.
If the courts can't be trusted or if their orders are not enforced, it's a complete coup. They are a dictatorship, and we can't stop that through. I I hesitate to say nonviolent means, but how else do you stop a dictatorship that has blocked all other legal recourse?
Right.
And
I don't know.
I'm
That's a
not
good
speaking
question.
in hypotheticals because just look at the video feeds of Congress people trying to go into the Department of Education. They were stopped by non-uniformed individuals with no identification who just told them, no, you can't come in. And there
Yeah.
was no,
Well, I saw that video and I can't understand how. I mean, it's certainly a great opportunity for these politicians to show the country, look at what's happening here.
yeah.
But I don't think I would have stood that long and allowed this person to prevent me from going into that building. Here I am, a
So,
member of Congress. You don't work for the government.
so just to clarify, the reason why they didn't go through is off screen, there were rows of armed guards inside the building holding weapons.
Armed guard. So
Like
more
he
of
was outside
Elon.
the building, standing in front of the doors, and then they were on the stairs inside the building, looking outside, were several guards with automatic weapons.
Hmm. And I would assume that was Elon's stormtroopers,
There was definitely ordered by the executive branch in some way.
the executive branch. Okay.
It could be Elon. I don't know if it was him or not, but there were armed guards preventing elected officials from entering a building they have every constitutional and legal right to enter.
That is just unbelievable. See, that's where we are now. That is
Yeah,
where we are. A couple of things I wanted to ask as well. A couple of other small issues. I'm going to save the other stuff, the numerous other issues for next
sure.
time. Two things I want to talk to you guys about, and I want your opinions. Number one, does character matter? And number two, what is manliness? So, starting with character, in considering what's going on today in the United States, and not just politically, socially, does character matter? How do you define character? Tell me, Simone. Tell me, give me an idea of what you think character means.
Like, if they are a good person or not? Like, what do you mean? Obviously, character matters. What kind of question is that?
Well, because when you look at what's happening, not
No
only
offense, not to be rude, but it's like, obviously.
no, sweetheart, when you look at what's happening in the world, in the business world, so many powerful people on Wall Street, for example, getting away with all sorts of things. To hell with character. They become greedy and they decide to, you know, engage in insider trading, for example. Things of that sort. Politicians. We've had a recent Democratic senator from New Jersey, Menendez,
Bob
who,
Menendez.
Bob Menendez, who is now going to jail. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison because he was taking kickbacks. He was accepting gifts like gold bars and trips, all based on how he would help certain contributors to his campaigns, regarding their businesses, regarding, their political situations. And it makes you wonder. I mean, he and his wife both were accused. His wife goes to trial, I think, in March, if I'm not mistaken. But it makes you wonder: does character really matter? Another thing is in the entertainment industry. I mean, not to sound like a prude, but I really don't need to see, certain things in, rock music, rap, or anything else. But then I don't know. I might be sounding like I'm advocating for censorship.
Like the provocativeness of,
Well,
like,
but it goes back to character. I
yeah.
mean, does character matter in our culture anymore?
I think that a lot of people, well, like, for example, like rap stuff, like it being so provocative and maybe over sexualized. Um, like if you're saying they have a lack of character,
Well, not
I
only
think,
that, but it's how the behavior of the alleged, let me say, the alleged behavior of people like Diddy, P. Diddy, whatever he's calling himself now. What was the other singer, R. Kelly, who's now in prison
oh, yeah,
for what he
yeah,
did to young women? Not allegedly, he's in prison. He was convicted.
yeah.
So, and this raises character issues because these people are looked up to by younger folks and emulated by younger folks. Politicians, how you behave. We've got a president who, excuse my language, but said you can actually grab a woman by the and get away with it because you're famous. How did that not end his political career right there? You
No
know,
idea.
it's disturbing. So it makes me wonder if character is really an important issue anymore.
I mean, I feel like it is, but I don't know what's going on in society right now. Because, yeah, no, if he had said something like that, like, say, like, George Bush, when he was running, said something like that, different time, I feel like he totally would have been canceled and he probably wouldn't have gotten to where he was. But, like, in
Yeah,
this day and age, because, like, rap music has gotten more provocative and you're just saying these things that you wouldn't normally say decades ago
yeah,
on live television, in music, in movies, in TV. um, really just pushing the envelope, like going farther and farther each year, it seems, and things are just more acceptable. I don't know. I don't know how we got here. I don't know if we can ever go back. It's like Pandora's box. We've opened it and we can't close it now.
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Joe, what do you think? Character, does a character matter? What do you think about character?
I think that character is just at its core the ability to self reflect and the ability to consider the world beyond yourself. Because if you can do that, then you will inevitably developed a sense of what you not just believe but feel to be right or wrong, and that's what character is.
Mhm.
But if you can't see that, or if you choose not to, if you choose to just look at yourself, if you choose to just consider what affects you, then character won't develop, as we call it, character. You'll
Mhm.
just go for whatever is immediately the most expedient option or the most satisfying option. And I mention it that way because addressing profanity, addressing sexuality, addressing any of these things, that they're the symptoms, not the cause of this deterioration of common respect. It's not about the words you say, although it is, but if you have this external perception, if you're basically raised to consider others as, and consider yourself, but consider how those two interact, you're not going to say a lot of those words, at the very least, the way that they've been said.
Right.
It's a chicken and egg scenario. Um, I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon because it's a societal shift. Those don't change overnight. But society ebbs and flows. You've got the restrictiveness of the 1920s. You've got, at the time, considerable liberation of the 50s. You've got the 60s continuing that even more. You've got nowadays a sort of modern Puritanism coming about that might swing the pendulum a little in the opposite direction too far, but ultimately people get tired of the way things are and they want to express it in ways that are not. That's where the
Yeah.
counterculture concept comes from. And
Sure.
eventually the counterculture becomes the culture and the consensus will start to shift the other way. It's how it is with politics. It's just in a separate societal sphere.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, it's a very good point. The pendulum does swing from one side to the other, and it always has. But
It's just unfortunate because it is an unpleasant situation right now. You've got a lot of people who don't think about anything other than themselves, and they'll promote beliefs that are harmful, that are degrading to
oh yeah,
themselves and others, and it's not good for the people. As much as it is, oh, it'll get better eventually. It's bad now.
you're absolutely right, and that is what really concerns me, and I'm sure lots of other people around the country. How we've got a president, and leadership matters. Leadership sets the tone. One of the things I learned, not only in the military, but in my, when I was an undergraduate studying management and leadership sets the tone for an organization. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-person team or, a huge corporation or the federal government. The person at the top sets the tone for everybody else. So leadership matters, character matters, because character is destiny. Okay, um, how you conduct yourself, the character you the character you show, you exhibit, will determine the direction your life goes. And the only, I mean, it's just amazing, a person of Trump's character who has, and these are facts, he has cheated contractors who've worked on his real estate projects. He has refused to pay some. He has lied and cheated on his to his wives. To me, if you're going to do that, that's why I wish Bill Clinton would have resigned. I would have more respect for the guy if he had resigned when he was caught fooling around with Monica Lewinsky. You know, if you're going to cheat on your wife, to me, that's a character issue. You know, you're in a relationship with someone and you're committed to them and you're a team. So you respect that other person by honoring that relationship. And if you're going to cheat on them, well, what does it say about your character? You know? So that's just a small example, but character matters. And I do hope it does swing back the other direction so that character becomes more important, because you can certainly be a liberal of strong character, a moderate of strong character, or a conservative of strong character. It doesn't matter. It's not a political, the Republicans, well, certainly not today's Republicans. They aren't displaying, in my view, any character. Certainly no spine. But it,
Actually, getting on the point about character, conservatives of character, one of my favorite columnists and journalists in general, David Brooks, he writes a lot for the New York Times, and he, as much as he'll talk about geopolitics and current events, he's also very much somewhat bemoaning, also trying to promote the reclamation of consideration for your fellow man, and not a return to the 50s era of, Leave It to Beaver. No, not that, but
right,
a return to caring about the people in your community, to looking at them, to talking to them, to just focusing on the people around you, literally physically around you, because if your community is a little better, it's a radiating effect.
right.
You know, one community is good, another community sees that, and they'll start to try and emulate those traits. And fixing these issues, whether they be these massive cultural divides or racial issues, it starts at the bottom. It starts with people talking to people.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. So that's my spiel on character. I do feel that character is definitely important. It does matter. You don't have to be a prude. You don't have to be a stick in the mud. Character is simply, as you said, Joe, it's thinking beyond yourself. And I mean, you phrased it better than I would, but it's thinking beyond yourself and then doing the right thing. You know,
It's like the person you see on the side of the road who's covered in mud. He talks to the thickest country accent you ever heard, but he's stopping on the side of the road to help someone fix the tire. That's character. Doesn't
exactly,
matter any other traits about him. In fact, the description I gave, that doesn't matter. It's the actions taken.
exactly, absolutely. So what about manliness? There's a lot of talk nowadays about what it means to be a man. What is manly? What isn't? I know I've heard a lot about how young men, particularly between the ages of 18 and 34, and Joe, you fall right in there.
Yeah.
That age group, there are a lot of young men who are lost, and they they don't really understand what it means to be a man, so they follow people like, give you an example, like Donald Trump, pretending that he's manly when you know real men don't treat people the way he does.
Yeah.
Um, they follow MMA, right? Mixed martial arts, thinking that's manly, and all those sort of things. And I'm not saying that sports aren't good. Listen, I love football. I think football is exciting, and I love watching it. I played sports in school. I played baseball, and I really enjoyed it. I even did some track field events. I enjoyed it. But what does it mean to be a man nowadays? I mean, what have you guys heard, Simone? What have you heard? What do you think? I mean,
I'm not a man. I don't know. Um,
I mean, you see men. What do you see
yeah,
them talk
well,
about?
you didn't.
yeah, I mean, no, I get what you're saying with like nowadays, like boys in that age group that you said listen to a lot of like this podcast called Joe Rogan's podcast.
Right,
And they think they're such like alpha males, but like really they just like men nowadays just want princess treatment. It's like a lot of people say like they want to be the woman, they want to be the princess, they want to be like, yeah, it's interesting, like they want to be taken care of. And I don't know, like they don't want to pay for dates anymore, and they think that we should split, and like that's fair, but it's like, okay, but it's also the same people who are like not really for women's rights and equal pay, but you want to split the bill, like weird things like that. Yeah,
very
not too
interesting.
many like manners anymore. Like men don't really open doors anymore as much or initiate plans. Say if you have a date, like plan the date. Then we're like, I don't know, what do you want to do? It's like
Right.
no initiative.
So they invite you, they ask you out on a date, but then they haven't decided where you're going to go for dinner, and then afterward, if you're going to go to a movie, and if you are, what movie you're going to see.
Yeah, no real plan.
Okay,
So I don't know. They're not, at least what you grew up thinking men were gonna be is
so
not really what you see,
the
right?
pickings are
For
really
girls my
slim,
age.
right? The pickings are really slim out there for young women like yourself, who are, you know, you're looking for a good man to have a relationship with, and it's hard to find ones that treat you with the respect you're accustomed to, the respect that I treated you with. Because the reason why I'm the kind of father I am to you is because I know how important fathers are. I'm not saying I'm a great father, but I do feel I'm a good father. And I want to make damn sure that my daughter finds a man who respects her, treats her properly, and is considerate and not a pig, knows how to open a door, you know, and is someone that I could meet and like. I mean, you've really. I mean, I liked each of the men that I've met that you've dated. Um, we're not going to name any names, but of course, one of them, well, two of them in particular, really screwed up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
that
yeah,
happens. Men make mistakes, especially when they're young. Even though neither of those two were that young, but yeah.
right. And I mean, they were both nice guys. I found them to be really nice, but and I liked them, and I still like them. I would, if I were to go out and run into one of them, I'd probably give him a hug and say, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you." You know.
Probably where I get it from, because everyone's always so concerned or confused as how I'm still friends with pretty much all of my exes, and it's probably because you and mom have no bad will towards anyone, no people. Just like if you see them out, you're still gonna say hi and be friendly with them.
Well, that's good.
I
That's a
think it's
good
good
thing.
too, but people think it's crazy that I can still maintain a friendship with
Well, that's
any guy that
sure.
I've dated.
No, I think
There's
that.
such like a trend I've noticed in relationships with younger people of, oh
Uh-huh.
no, they made a mistake. Burn them, cut
Yeah,
them out,
yeah.
kill them.
Like,
And I understand you're hurt, but
Yeah,
just move on. Literally move
mm-hmm,
on. You'll feel better for it.
I
mm-hmm,
agree.
I
I
agree.
agree. It's for some people. I mean, it depends on maturity. I mean, the prefrontal cortex isn't
Well,
fully developed until you're 25.
if I
So,
could actually jump in on that on maturity,
yeah,
you were asking, what is manliness, and with all of these people coming in, Donald Trump, Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, you name it, there's plenty out there promoting manliness. And with what you said, Simone, about how they will. I love how you put it. How they want to be treated like a princess, and yet they still want to be this hyper masculine ideal. Young men don't have the foundation yet of understanding what it means to be a man. They're immature, quite literally. But then these people, these promoters of hypermasculinity, come in and they present the end structure, the built body, the confidence, etc., etc. And they say this is what you need to get, but they never explain why. Like there's never a why as to why you should be, and it's hollow. It's
right.
all cosmetic. There's no
Oh, I
inner
agree.
depth. And I mean, manliness isn't manliness isn't Ron Swanson. Manliness is the emotional traits that lead to Ron Swanson. It's the quiet introspection that lets you consider who you are in the world. It's having character, as we discussed, and it's being self-possessed enough to not be flapped by those outside of your sphere of influence, to be your own person.
Yeah.
And
No,
all of the wrestling and the sports and all those are great. They don't define manhood, but they are ways to express manhood. There's nothing wrong with them or right with them. It's whatever you personally feel you want to engage with.
yeah. It's really interesting. A man, in my mind, a real man, treats people with respect, isn't rude and boisterous, and doesn't have to dominate the woman or the man he dates. You can be a real man and be a gay man. I know some men who are gay and who are very manly. you
Yeah.
know that's fine. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. That's not an issue. When it comes to um, just like from my point of view, just treat people with respect, show character, be kind. Um,
It's almost like the concept of manliness isn't really even manliness. It's just the male expression of these positive traits.
I think also it's possible that maybe Hollywood, maybe the gaming industry. I don't know. There's so many influences on young men today, and they take the idea of manliness from something other than the men around them. A lot of
Yeah.
these young men may not have positive male role models, and that's unfortunate. And that's something that all young men and young women need. Young women, in order to have a successful relationship with a man, it's important to have good men in your life.
Yeah.
And Simone, you've got good men in your life. You've got your brother, you've got me, your stepfather. You had Papa Denny, you Uncle Herman. You had good. Did I say stepfather? Step grandfather. I meant step grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. These are all good men, and so fortunately, you have that. But yeah, this whole business of tattoo sleeves and beards down to here and big hyper muscles and driving these great big pickup trucks and wearing your cap backwards. Wow. I
There's
really
nothing
wonder.
inherently wrong with them, but if that's what you think being manly is, you're not going to be a man.
I agree. I agree. You don't have to be that way in order to be a man
Yeah.
if that's your thing. And if hopefully you're a good man, you know, but
Yeah.
it makes me really wonder. It's like an exaggeration of masculinity, you know?
It's such a stereotype. If you ever see a guy whose profile picture is him sitting in his car wearing wraparound Oakleys, run away because it's every all of these hyper masculine chasers will think that's what I need to look like, and
Yeah.
they don't learn how to be proper men. And it's unfortunate because if you actually just think Oakleys are effective, you're instantly seen as this terrible person.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I mean, look, I'm not saying anything bad against tattoos. I've got a couple of tattoos. My best friend, who I love like a brother from another mother, um, is covered with tattoos. He
yeah,
loves tattoos. He retired from the Air Force after 30 years, and he said, "You know what? Now I'm going to grow my hair long, and I'm going to get tattoos."
yeah.
Cool.
That
He's
was
a
his
good man.
choice, made because he liked it and not because he felt he had to aspire to these trends of masculinity.
Yeah. No, I'm really proud of him because he's such a good man.
Mhm.
And he's kind and considerate, very compassionate. He's done some work with what is it? Oh gosh, Special Olympics. He's done
That's
a lot
great.
of work with Special Olympics in the past, and he's just a really, really good dude. You know,
And I
but
will say, just to add a bit of hope to this, we've had a very dreary conversation because things are very dreary. But on manliness, there is a growing trend online of the like inversion of the Gigachad meme, and essentially the Gigachad meme is just it's a picture of this bodybuilder model who's just like he's ultra hyper masculine, great chin and everything. And it started out with a traditional hyper masculinity mockery, but now it's turned into, oh yeah, it was a total Gigachad move. I listened to this person talk about their problems, and I nodded, and I told them that it's okay, things get better. And it's kind of like a ironic but serious at the same time meme that turns into reality of, yeah, real manliness is whenever you talk about your feelings and don't mock someone for having a bad day. And
yeah,
it's encouraging to see because while I don't understand, God help me, youth culture, I'm marking myself.
you're getting so old, Joe.
I'm 30. I'm no longer a kid anymore. But
Yeah, right.
the young kids, I don't understand how they act, but there's pushes out there towards sincerity and consideration that I'm glad to see. And it's two sides of Gen Z. On one side, it's broccoli haircuts and nihilism. On the other side, it's wanting to understand more about the world around them and caring about people and not sure how to they're not sure how to express it, but it's there.
Right, right. So interesting. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. We've done just over an hour, and we're going to try to keep it at an hour. We're going to try to stick to that, although sometimes it can be hard.
It
But
will. And I hate to interrupt again. I'm going to keep myself less than 2 minutes.
go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to recommend to anyone who would want to learn more about why USAID was important for soft power, or if you want a historical perspective as well as current political perspective by someone who is calm, intelligent, and, in my opinion, down to earth, Heather Cox Richardson. She does podcast weekly. She does a daily written letter on Substack. I'll post links in the notes for this, but
Yeah.
I could not recommend her enough. She's written excellent books. She's a legitimate historian. And as the world is lighting on fire around us, hearing her being able to not just explain things, but source the you know
Yeah.
what out of it, it's a bomb.
Yeah. She's
Absolutely.
terrific. She's terrific. I read her book, Letters from
Democracy
America.
Awakened. Oh, Letters to American. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. She is, I'm a big fan of her. She's a legitimate historian, really smart lady. In fact, I watched one of her YouTube videos this morning, her most recent one.
Yeah, that's the
So,
one that I saw. That was about USAID, I think.
yeah, it was so interesting, very enlightening.
Mhm.
And so I enjoyed it. So yeah, we'll put some things in the show notes for anyone who, wants to follow up on some of the things we've discussed.
Yeah.
And listen, reach out to us, put your comments, add your comments. We're going to post this as we have been to YouTube as well as to Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
And if you like it, give us a thumbs up and
Tell your
subscribe
friends. Yeah.
and forward. Share this with your friends and relatives
Yeah.
if you feel so inclined.
And if
But
you don't
anyway,
like it and you want to give us feedback more than just you suck, please do
Keep
so.
it to yourself. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, guys. That's it for now. Love you both, and we'll chat again really soon.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Adios.